Uh, on the occasion of Women's Day, we thought it would be most appropriate to have, and it's my pleasure to introduce three of my colleagues who are on the managing committee of the IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru. For those who may not know, the IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru, IITACB for short, is an initiative taken by the alumni of all the 23 IITs living in Bangalore. And we have built a huge facility very close to Electronic City, where all the 23 IITs have small offices. We have a 175-seater incubator, an auditorium, seminar halls, and everything that you need to have a scientific conference, science conference, or convention in one location. For the membership to IIT-ACB is open to those in the IIT system, and you can download membership forms from our website. I would encourage those who are not members yet to, please do visit either the facility or visit our website, become members. Either way, we'd love to welcome you to IIT-ACB. Today, we have three speakers. One who's in research, one who is an entrepreneur before the word entrepreneur became fashionable, and another one who is worked both on the corporate side and in the social development space. It's my pleasure to introduce them one by one. Professor Abha Misra teaches at the Indian Institute of Science in the Department of Instrumentation and Applied Physics. She earned her PhD from IIT Bombay and then went on a postdoctoral fellowship to Caltech. It was the Gordon and Betty Moore Foundation postdoctoral fellowship. Amongst many, many things, she's an associate of Indian Academy of Sciences, member of National Science Academy, and so on. She has 9 patents, more than 100 publications, and has also authored a book titled Micro to Quantum Supercapacitor. So, very accomplished researcher, teaches at IISc and is an active member of the IIT-ACB Managing Committee. Our second speaker will be Seema Sibbal. Seema is an alumnus of IIT Delhi and was like I said, she was an entrepreneur before the word entrepreneur became fashionable, and she started companies that were specializing in yeast, bakery ingredients, flavors, perfumes, and industrial specialty chemicals. And then sold her company. Imagine if she did it today, she would be a multi-billionaire. She sold her company many years ago to the AB Maori Group of the UK, and is presently an investor and supports new startups and mentoring young entrepreneurs, and is very active Rotarian. She is the director of the Rotary program called Teach in Rotary Midtown. And our third speaker is Dr. Susheela Venkataraman, IIT Delhi, BITS Pilani, and a Faculty of Management Studies, degrees from all of that. She was MD at Cisco for the strategy consulting group there. She was also a partner prior to that at Price Waterhouse Coopers. And currently, she is the chair of Arogya World India Trust and on the board of 2 other NGOs, the Unnati Foundation, and of course, IIT Alumni Center, Bengaluru. Lots of interests in Susheela's life, pursuing studies in Sanskrit. She's a Carnatic music vocalist, enjoys photography and painting, and is an active Rotarian. Moderating this evening would be Professor Ashok Misra. He needs no introduction. Professor Misra is an alumnus of IIT Kanpur, taught at IIT Delhi for a long time, was director of IIT Bombay, Chairman Board of Governors of IIT Roorkee, and I don't think there's a single IIT that's not been touched by him. So he's the ultimate product of the IIT system. So he's served in all capacities. Professor Misra will moderate the conversation. I will begin by having Professor Abha Misra start telling us about research and inspiring young people, especially women, on the occasion of Women's Day to take up research as a career. Over to you, Abha.
Thank you, Ashok. First of all, many congratulations to all women across the world. And this is a well-deserving day to think of lot of things, actually, how we have come so far and where we started and all. And still, I think, a long way to go to achieve, the things we really want to have this today. So as Ashok mentioned that I've been actually actively involved in organizing IITACB webinars along with Susheela. And it's a pleasure to be on the other side talking about what I'm doing and about a little bit about my journey so far to reach here. So certainly it's my great pleasure and pride to be on such a platform like the IITACB, because what it aims is to have like many societal impacts through collaborations among various IITs and industries. And I think, yeah, this is a current need of it, and I'm really proud to be part of it. So as a faculty at IISc, I joined in 2010 the Department of Instrumentation and Applied Physics, and I find research and teaching a most satisfying passion to serve the society in many ways. And as when we talk about teaching, it's really you feel you are part of the future, because that's where the nurturing starts, and that gives you the most satisfactory accomplishment over the end of the day, and so on. So teaching basically, it is aimed in a great way to shape the future of young minds. That's where we are. So in IISc, we have programs for undergraduates, masters, PhD. So you see there are various levels of teaching from the basics to the advanced level of the kind of, I won't be saying the skill, but kind of you teach students so that they have the great career ahead. And so basically this is a very responsible job as a teacher, because you are responsible to provide these students an updated knowledge so that they are aware where they are, what they need to do, and where they want to go. And secondly, it also provides them the ability for problem solving, which is, I think, it's a very important aspects of life to learn. And at both technical and I think the regular life. So teaching, so this is also the part of that teaching goes with. And most importantly is the independent thinking. If you're able to really come up with your ideas and shape them, those ideas. And finally, it comes as a, the teaching them skills, what I was talking about, since we have these postgraduate and PhD courses also. So here, responsibility goes beyond, teaching basics, if they can have certain skills where they can contribute to certain level of, the advancement in technology or a lot of ways. So it depends on the fields they offer. So in many ways, basically, this is a regeneration of, the people who are going to pay back by doing the same teaching in many ways again. So I feel it is a very, very responsible job which I'm doing right now. And this has to be done without any mistake. And because this is the future for all, just not for the students, I think the whole society and the way we shape the society depends on that. So along with teaching, we have also the role for doing research. And research is something which I find it just opens up a whole horizon in front of you. And it's just what training you have gained so far in terms of independent thinking, in terms of dreaming, in terms of shaping your dreams, and anything you can do. So basically, when you dream about, the certain technological advances that you ever wanted to attribute to the people or to the society, basically, as a teacher, as a researcher, government provides you support to establish your labs, establish your idea, and implement, and actually basically it makes you capable to implement those ideas in many ways. So it's not at all difficult to achieve it. These ideas with you have the the system which is very, very supportive. So your basically your capabilities are directly translated to solving the problems by having certain developments that can benefit the whole world, not really talking about the one specific society, but the everybody in the world gets advantage of it, your idea, your development, your whatever you do. So there is this ecosystem which of course I got benefited from it in many ways. So when I started here in IISc, so my plan was to, or is, or still I'm pursuing the same thing, is to develop these sensors at a smaller scale. So I was fascinated by the working on nanotechnology, and to give you one example, a few examples of how nanotechnology is with everybody is the how our gadgets have changed a lot over the time. And that's pretty much the contributions coming from the developments using this smaller scale technology. Quantum computing, which we hear a lot, is another example. And so in one way or another, knowingly or unknowingly, we are getting advantage of using this technology in our daily life. And the advantage we are having is we certainly if we go back in time when information was not really available to everybody, and I think that was kind of huge disadvantage, because something was happening at one place, and the people who should be getting benefited from those policies or the advantages, the information was not with them. So right now, at least we expect that, or that the people should be aware, people should be getting the enough information to to support themselves for the things, and but there's no scarcity of the knowledge or the information which is being passed in every second across the world, actually. So not really limited to the areas. And the second area which I chose to work was the sustainable solutions to provide the the energy. So over the time, of course, in last 60-70 years, there are a lot of developments happened, and in our country also we have a lot of independent the manufacturing going on in several areas. So we are not really lacking anywhere behind from any other country or so. The thing is, when we develop things, of course, first is the excitement of the researching something which is very new, and because it gives you enormous amount of the feasible solutions to solve many problems altogether. at the same time, when we look at the resources which we are using, either these are limited or we cannot really reuse them. And so start finding some alternates that can be, to keep your environment clean and and also giving you at the same time, you're not lacking behind in the benchmark parameters which you got in terms of generation of energy or conversion or any other point. So the solution we try to do solution which we try to find in our lab is it something we can have the self-generation of the or self-operation of the system. So self-operation means is either using light or using the kind of self-generation of energies by some kind of using waste form of the heat, and there are ways to do it. And if we have these self-sustained systems developed, like sensing, not really using the external sources, but we should enable these systems to operate by themselves by either abundance of the abundant light or the lot of waste heat which we hardly actually exploit. So this is another thing which we look for in terms of research. So as I mentioned, that to do research, government and the industries have a lot of support. And so it's not like you dream something and it just remains dream. Your dream come true. I think this is the place where I have seen that, look, this is what I wanted to do. You have to convince your funding agency that this is a feasible solution, and when you solve it, the society is certainly going to get benefited. And once you convince your technological idea how you are going to do, you have the funds to establish a lab according to that, generate the infrastructure, and you start doing the research with the help of the students. So students come in sometimes you work with undergraduate students for a short-term project. You have master's student, little bit longer projects they do, and then you have the PhD students. They have the maximum of 5 years of program. So basically the point is, so you see that there is a process. Process is establishing yourself, you're teaching students the research and the development. You are also the part of skill development at the advanced level, because all these techniques are very sophisticated, and it's important to know about the what it can lead to if you for example, microfabrication of chip at the chip level, the devices and the sensors. So it actually adds to enormous amount of experience. So this is what I do in the lab and try to teach students, and this is how it goes. And so basically we observe a direct impact of all this on the society, and it changes for the good. So I'm trying to relate these changes to the there was a concern a few years back about the large gender gap, and the participation of women in STM. And this gap in last few years has reduced significantly, and I give the credit to the how technology has developed. I said that I mentioned about the information, and information is the one thing which, if you don't have, you cannot access the resources which government is providing or anybody else is offering. So one thing is one should educate themselves to take advantage of these schemes and the resources which are given. So basically, probably I give the credit to these advances for reducing this gap. And this gap it's important to reduce this gap, because as a society, and it's for everybody, that society should be developed with the contribution of all. So nobody should be left behind to contribute to give their contribution to it. And so that's why it's just not one set of group should be responsible for it, but I think the whole society should take the responsibility to the reduce or make this gap zero, and that's where we aim at. So as a woman faculty, what I attract is many female students. They work with me, and this thing which I relate with, more women mentorship is required, and more leadership in women is required, where women feel very comfortable in working, and this is how it makes the journey much easier. So I keep telling my students that, look, your journey was certainly not very easy, but now since you have come to this point, it is your responsibility to become a role model for many women who want to follow your same path, or at least you get them inspired to be empowered. So it is important for each of us to take the responsibility to empower ourselves to change multiple socio-cultural factors, which I think all of us are aware of. But I think this is what everyone's responsibility, and not just women, but I think it is everyone's dream to be part of a developed society, and which is going to be, or which is very difficult when large portion of population is not contributing. So I think it's important to solve the issues together, and that's what I see that my contribution to this journey, and as a role model, if I am. So I try to inspire, the even women and men both to 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 dream about such a society where there is equality and everybody gets equal opportunity to these developments, which are very fast moving, and certainly we need more, the more number of people to come forward and accomplish the dream we are having for everyone around us. So yeah, so I really like to thank you for giving me opportunity to speak here, and this is really wonderful to hear from Seema and Susheela further.
So thank you, Abha, for sharing your journey in the realm of science and technologies, I would say, because you're sort of on the cusp of these two. In recent times, women scientists have made a very significant difference. I have seen that through my journey in the IITs. My question would be that the female students in the higher education system is almost equal to that of the male students, and this is about 2 crores. 2 crores is about 20 million in each category. So 20 million women are in, and let's say 40% are doing science, maybe 30%, whatever. It still is a huge number. How can we attract more female students for research?
Yeah, this is a very interesting question. And if you look at even in under this STM, the difference between across the subjects, when certain areas are, women are very much interested, like the life sciences, microbiology, and others, while on the other hand, these some of the engineering subjects like civil, electrical, mechanical, the participation becomes really very narrow. So it's very interesting, the difference here, and not sure if it goes by that where more women, and there is a tendency to join that group, or the certain subjects, and wherever the scarcity, it just remains like that. So I think of course, the need is we have to take a strategical approach to bring more women scientists or researchers as leaders, or kind of, the role models in these specific areas where we see that, yes, this number has to really going up. And we know that if there is a trend of, the filling certain areas very nicely with a high percentage, But so I think there has to be some strategical approach we really have to define to fill these researchers in these areas. And probably the undergraduate level girls must be encouraged to take up research projects. They do more projects in certain areas, and there should be immediate guidance available to clear their doubts about why there is there is a large difference, and provide some kind of encouragement.
So one of the things I see is that if you encourage them right from the undergraduate or in sciences from the MSc level with little bit more research, even if it's at the expense of some courses, I think that should help. What do you think?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So actually government has a lot of programs. So starting from undergraduate to PhD to faculty level, to support them at every level. And I think they also these schemes are centered at the problem specific. If you have a break, then you have this scheme, you go through this scheme. Undergraduate for the projects. So for example, this new scheme has come, Vigyan Jyoti, and so this is coming from the Ministry of Science and Technology, and they collaborate with Navodaya Vidyalaya, and where they select the 50 girls for the counseling and attend seminars and doing projects, or they actually set up their interaction with the role models. So that kind of it's a very, miss, of course this is a very 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 localized level of program,
Very good.
but I think this has to spread all across in all colleges and institutions. So probably this is the starting point, but we really have to do something very very focused.
So 50 is a very small number. It should be at least in some thousands, given
Yes.
what India needs. Also, some of the institutions, especially IIT Bombay, I remember we introduced MSc, PhD,
Integrated programs.
Integrated programs. I think those things will help.
Yeah.
Going forward, which are the areas of science and technology that you think will attract you? And you did mention about microbiology, but there are other areas.
So nowadays, Miss, as I said, that what strategical approach we can take to fill these gaps is nowadays there are a lot of interdisciplinary research is going on, and where the students from science background, they get chance to learn the problems which are very much relevant to engineering. And I think these are the areas where even the bioelectronics. So I think that these kind of programs are really beneficial. Where
how about things like AI and ML and all that? You think that will attract?
Yes. So computational is one of the areas where I don't see that girls are lacking in showing their expertise. But yes, this is one of the subjects they should really look for. Yeah.
All right. So we heard, and I am somewhat familiar with it, that there are women scientists and engineers who have made a huge difference in the success stories at ISRO. If you can elaborate a little bit on that, if you're aware.
I think this is Miss ISRO's program has set up benchmark for many things. It's just not the technical advancement what they have done, and this was remarkable success story they have written on world's map. But as you mentioned, that leading women, the role, this is incredible. That so that's what I'm saying. What we are lacking is the women's role as a the lead role, as a the mentorship role, and then we see the results what ISRO scientists were able to do it, and they have shown the way, and I think everybody should follow that. Yes.
Very good. I mean, that's excellent. I'm familiar with Ritu Khardayal, who was part of the Mars mission, and she started MSc at the University of Lucknow, and then look where she has reached.
Yes.
All right.
Each individual has very excellent story.
Okay, one last question, and then we'll let you go. You have been working in the area of nano science, as I would say it. What do you think would be the greatest possibilities in 10 years from now in the nano area? let's say 5 to 10 years from now?
I
Because it's
think
come a long way in the last 10 years. So
yes, yes. So now we are at the stage that we are able to harvest the knowledge, and we brought the products in the market, and I mentioned that everybody actually in the society is using it and getting benefit of it. So now the next stage is the quantum, and that's the next level, and that area is moving very, very fast. So I think at this stage we need many more contributions, many more scientists to actually bring this technology real in for the commercial applications. Yes.
could you, in one sentence or so, tell what initiatives you are trying to lead in the quantum area at IITACB?
Yeah. So
Just very briefly.
yes, yes. So in IITACB, since IITACB is a very unique platform, the bringing 23 IITs and industries in a single platform. And here we are going to actually launch the Center of Excellence in Quantum Technology, where the various verticals will be, with the help of industries, we try to bring the products to the market, and that we train because the important aspect is the skill development, and that we are taking it
Right.
very seriously, so that everybody actually contributes through this Center of Excellence, which is going to be established in IITACB. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and wish you all the success and more success as your research progresses through your career at IIC Bangalore. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. So now we have our next speaker, Seema Sibbal, who has been introduced by Ashok Kamath already. And she has been an entrepreneur, and she is still involved in activities related to entrepreneurship. As I see, a logical next step after research and so on would be entrepreneurship, because new ideas come out and they lead to new enterprises, startups, and so on. So over to you, Seema. So 20 minutes, and then we'll have question answers. And the audience, please put your questions in Q&A box. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Misra, and thank you, Ashok, for that wonderful introduction. Thanks, Susheela, and thanks, Abha. Abha, that was very inspiring. Now, my journey, I passed out in 1977, and for a very short while, I was with Hindustan Lever and with Quest. Quest is the international company which manufactures flavors and perfumes for variety of industries. So that gave me a great base. And I immediately in 1981, I was on my own. Along the journey, there has been, a lot of learning. And now, after the entrepreneurship, I have gotten into investing, and where, my journey as an entrepreneur has really helped, because now I'm able to assess a company, and I don't get perturbed when quarterly numbers are not good, because I know that businesses are not a quarter story. And even Karnataka, there's really good news that Karnataka has 25% allocation in the budget for women empowerment. And from where I was in 1981 to today in 2024, a lot has changed. Systemically and structurally, a lot has been done in the past few years. And I'm part of FICCI, and they have a special women's wing which is very active, and it invites all kinds of we have people coming from all sections of entrepreneurship and talk to us. They could be in various mechanical, electrical, all kinds of industries. Now, the progress, I will be concentrating a lot more on women, because I do work with women now. And the progress has happened because women have broken from their stereotypes and circumstances and made their way through tailwinds and sheer energy that they bring to the table. It's amazing, how everything seems to have, in these 3-4 decades that I have been, the tailwinds that I see now for a women entrepreneur is very different from what it used to be. It all actually starts from home, and all who do such amazing work, the dining table conversations, and how now a woman is really almost pampered by the family to take risk, and the stereotype now is not as much as it used to be few years back. So as I told you that, I started my entrepreneurship journey in 1981, and the support that is available at home and otherwise has changed dramatically. The mindset that women need to be in a safer role and not bring about a turmoil in their life is changing. We now don't talk of our, you know, women not taking risks. And I just now went to a shipyard. I was wanting to know how it is built and what are the various nuances out there. And I was looking at the submarines, and I found a lot of women who are getting into Navy, and it somehow made me feel so good. Really coming a long way. We have to, I have been a founder and a funder. So I think more number of women have to start funding women, because there is a supply and demand mismatch right now. And the women investors will have to take a lead, and that is going to be a huge shift. I have some numbers which I'm going to be sharing with you, which are not very encouraging. And so we basically want women to take more risk, and these have to come from our homes. So, I do hear a lot of parents now talking to their daughters to do startups. And I heard them telling them that if they fail, do not worry. We will back you for the second one. And that somehow, that instills a lot of confidence that, I mean, it's okay to fail. Previously we were very scared that, if we don't do well in our entrepreneurship journey, what is really going to happen? But now it's not like that. It's very iterative. You find that, you were onto a wrong thing, and then, you take on another. And so the whole scenario has changed quite dramatically. Now, it's basically, I feel, an internal battle. And previously, we would be told if we could maintain a work-life balance. I see that happening quite easily now. And a lot of doubts by society and family, which used to be there, I think have got mitigated to a large extent. We've got a long way to go, and but we are on the right track, I feel. And I have some numbers that in India we have only 20% of women as SME owners, and 23% of our women are in the labor force. Now, this 20% women in SME sector, I think, is a very we could do better. And companies solely founded by women receive less than 3% of venture funding. So one of the roles which I do in my present career is to teach them how to pitch, because women are considered risky even now, because they everybody thinks that what if she gets married, what if what will happen to whatever we are backing her for. But the reality is that women are nurturers, and they build many companies that are self-funded. I was one of them, and these are self-sustained. Again, we did it. And the funders always feel that little bit of hesitation, because they feel, what if she changes a career path and doesn't want to continue, things like that. Now, what I tell them is that 89.6, these are again figures which are verified. 89.6% of women-run enterprises are profitable. So the 3% that get funded build profitable businesses, and 89.6% is a very high percentage of profitable business. Now, another fact from Boston Consulting Group, which says that this is basically a perception about women and women funding, that women funding is risky, and they've taken a lot of data, and they find that every dollar invested in a woman-owned business, they get 78 cents on a dollar, versus for men-owned, they get 31 cents to the dollar. And that's a big disparity. And a huge round of applause for this. And this needs to, more and more number of people and women trying to do well. Even in our FICCI, there's so many women now, which, the whole thing is changing quite a lot. And we have found that, we all know that women are fully capable, and they're very, very good at assessing risk. So, talking about the entrepreneurship journey now, it is, when you are becoming an entrepreneur, you are open to uncertainty. And every day we don't know how things are going to pan out. It's a given. And we work, work out the unpredictability and having the ability to face that uncertainty every day and finding your own coping mechanism to not let that anxiety overwhelm us. So being analytical and think all things through. Now, this aspect which, for the last 3-4 decades that I have been inculcating in my behavior and in my thinking pattern has helped immensely today when I'm an investor. I really do not get perturbed. Anything that happens, you immediately, it's almost an auto mechanism which starts assessing the risk, and then, you do a mathematical scenario valuations, and you're good. The overwhelming doesn't happen. So that is one very big characteristic which gets developed over time, because entrepreneurship is all about that uncertainty. And personally for me, whenever I'm at a fork, I start quantifying. That helps a lot, quantifying the risk. The risk is always the wolf which is in the mind, actually, and the fear of the unknown. But each scenario, there will be a risk attached to it, and you work out, this is the first scenario, this is the second, and this is the third. How would you, you look at your own personality and your own ability to take that risk, and you move forward. But nothing is, at a women fancy. It's all thought through, and that thinking through the whole thing comes because you were an entrepreneur. You took a tough call at different times, and so that gets developed. So that is one thing. And in my role in the Rotary, where again we all the time encourage entrepreneurship. I feel that rural women are way better because they are not at all afraid, and they don't come under pressure, and they really have guts. And it could be because they're so much pushed to the bottom that they don't have any choices. So when they see that, oh, they can do things like this, they just really are so inspiring for and the success rate is so high. I'm sure the NBFCs have also felt the same, and that's why all that culture of going there has come. Now, when we are talking about empowerment of women, we need to ask what are they bringing to the table. And suppose they are lacking in a particular aspect, they can. There are so many now courses, and there are so many things which they can do to enhance that. And the empowerment also will mean a freedom of choice, freedom to express your opinion, and financial freedom to be in control of your life, being accountable for everything, not by words, but financially as well. I talk a lot about financial literacy when when I'm mentoring. To me, that is very important. Um, you know, you have to push against your nature because basically we are softer people, and you have to push your case. You just cannot let that 5 minutes of pitch go away. So, we do train people to be a little more assertive. Now, we have also found that salaries and designations are negotiated very well by the men, but women like to keep a balance. So they're not very harsh on that, but it's slowly changing. A lot of us are mentoring them, and a lot of women get stuck between debt and divorce. And I'm seeing more and more of that now. They don't know how to manage finances. Especially women need to know that we do what we do with what we have. So there, the financial literacy becomes very important. And I think going forward, it should become part of the curriculum. Uh, some people see the things that they want, and then others who will see what is preventing them from getting what they want. And these are the winners actually. So even with financial literacy, we will need to kind of educate them that it's not okay with saying that you don't know. You have to know. Otherwise, the outcome can be quite bad. So in my journey, I've also found that it's very good to take care of each other, because asking for help and giving help should be part of your nature, because you you don't know when you will need whom. Not because of that, but once it's part of your being, it becomes very easy for you to navigate your journey. Nelson Mandela, one of the best leaders, said that you have to be the last to speak, skill to hold your opinion to yourself, and let everyone else speak. This gives everyone the feeling that they are heard. And this is a skill set which, it sounds very simple, but it's pretty difficult to do that, especially when you are in a boardroom, and you have to understand why they are saying what they're saying, and try to be in their shoes. That comes quite naturally to women, and we have to take accountability for our actions, take responsibility of what we are doing, engage with people. Engaging with people again is something which is part of our nature, and create the right environment, an environment where everybody thrives. There is no fear of anything. You're running companies, let everybody be able to come and tell you if they have a problem, and smile, be more friendly, and let them feel wanted. And obviously always remember that this is just a position, and it's very transitory. So develop empathy and humility. So I just want to end with something which I heard a few days back, that there is Dead Sea, and this river of Jordan, which gives water to Dead Sea and Sea of Galilee. And one is, there is no life, and in the other one, it's teeming with life. It's freshwater lake. So we have to be always a giver. As much as we flow, we are going to empower empower everybody, and more, we ourselves will get empowered. So thank you.
Thank you, Seema. It's very nice message that you've given for women entrepreneurship. But in my personal experience, I do see that the women entrepreneurs are increasing in India. I'm the chartered member of TIE, and I see the number of women members who are becoming chartered members and taking part is increasing. So it's at least in the direction which is positive. It may not be at the speed as Seema is thinking of, but what are the factors for this? What is what is making this happen, and what do we need to do as a society or TIE, for example, as an organization, that more women get into this entrepreneurship?
So, what we from our side at Wiki, what we are doing is we are empowering them with, a lot of understanding of money, and pushing them to, there is a whole ecosystem that has now got developed where they can just come to us, and if for example, we have these young people who come and they have a great idea. They're doing very well. But I found that, they are not really tabulating their finances. And though they are doing very well, but end of the day, they don't, the balance sheet is not good. So, you kind of tell them that let this become a mantra for you. So a lot of mentorship has also come into the picture. It's while at that level, the numbers are increasing, but a
But
lot of people are volunteering.
but can't they hire a CFO and be less burdened about the financial thing? Because many times I see, I'm also involved in some venture capital startups, and I see many times the founder is not the best CEO, the founder is not the best SFO, and so on. He may be the best CTO, but shouldn't that ecosystem work?
So, Professor Mishra, what happens really is that when you are an entrepreneur, you have limited resources, and you're not able to hire at a very high level. And I think the psyche of the entrepreneurs, you have to change. We have to change that. They have to think numbers. They might have a great idea, but if the bottom line is not positive, the thing will not. Fortunately for women, that comes naturally because they budget very well. So it's basically getting their mind to think about money. A lot of women don't think like that.
Now, when you talk about money, do you think women entrepreneurs are more shy than men entrepreneurs for asking for funding?
For sure, for sure.
How can we
Because
change that? We have to
it,
change that.
no, we have to change that. Oh, this is purely because, by nature, they are not aggressive, and a man will say that this is, they even fight for the designations. But here, the women are letting go of that particular opportunity. And so we are, as mentors, telling them that no, you need to, if you feel this is what you are worth, go tell them. Don't come out of your comfort zone, and just don't shy away from telling that this is what you need. So that thing
So,
is also changing now.
so should we think of a possibility of an executive development program or something like that for budding entrepreneurs? So
Yes,
you tell them to be aggressive and so on.
yes.
It'd be great if you can take the lead, and that's the.
Yeah, yeah,
If there's
sure.
anything I can help with, Thai, I'm happy to do it.
Sure, sure.
Okay, what is that one quality that defines a woman entrepreneur leader from others?
So, Professor Mishra, what I feel is that, it's a great question. Um, Women entrepreneurs are, there is a certain amount of vulnerability, not in the bad sense. It's knowing this is your strength and this is your weakness, and that vulnerability is very important, because that is something which where that this is an area where perhaps I'm not the best. The strength and weaknesses, equal vigor, that okay, this is not a job which I can do, and with that will come empathy. So with the empathy anyway is fairly natural to us. With the empathy, there is an accountability, and with the accountability, there is action. So, it all gets merged very nicely because, they all work in sync to, make you a very successful person. You can, and generally what I have seen is that the women entrepreneurs, they true entrepreneurship because they always hire people who are far better than them. And that is what is legacy. They don't shy
Yeah.
away, he knows more, nothing like that.
They've got to do that. Okay, I just would like to share an example of Mayor Padmasi, who was the chairperson of Thermax, and she had a legacy. Her mother was the chairperson before that, Anuaga. So it's not like she inherited from the father; she inherited from the mother. And she recently won the EY Entrepreneur of the Year award for manufacturing. It's not, in other fields. It's remarkable, I think. Uh, I make all compliments to Mayor. I know personally, she's a remarkable woman. Can you name a few other outstanding women in the corporate world who you admire? Maybe 3 or 4 names you can give.
So, I've been looking a lot at the younger people, under 30. And this is the age for entrepreneurship, I feel. So this young person, Rotary also gives you a lot of exposure to, help out with the younger lot. And we met this lady, Nivedha, and she has this company called TrackCon. I don't know if many have heard, but her biodata runs into several pages. She's all of 26, and her mission is waste is history. And she has developed this process, which she's been invited to Germany, she's been invited everywhere, Israel, Spain, everywhere, and climate change summits and ESG awards. So that's very inspiring to see somebody so passionate and so young doing things like that. And then, you have Nirupa Shankar from Brigade Group. Again, something, which was male dominated place. So there are a lot of youngsters who are coming into the sphere of uh, business. And that I think is what we look forward to.
Yeah, but there are some remarkable success stories like Falguni Nair of
Yeah.
Nykaa has taken it to the next level.
Yes.
There is
Yes.
Nisaba Godrej, there is
Yes.
Nandini Piramal. I mean, they
Yes.
are now at the helm of their companies. I'm very, very proud of what they're doing
Yes.
in what was a male-dominated scene, and they're making a huge difference. That's very powerful. The one last question I'll ask you: what do you think of the microcredit schemes? Well, you mentioned about rural women, and rural women do not require fancy offices, this, that, but they have lots of skills which go unnoticed sometimes, and they could be, like small time entrepreneurs, but make a difference. So, what do you think of this microcredit system that was
So
prevalent?
that's very much under play, and social organizations are doing a lot, and I think Susheela will also touch upon that how we empower them to get all the there's um, so many things that they need to do to avail a particular scheme of loan. So we have these a full range of NGOs which do just that to help them
Okay,
cover that up.
perfect. And my last comment, more than a question, that you mentioned about the women in Navy. I saw a remarkable program on television about women in Navy, and it was so impressive. I can't tell you. And the same story goes with Air Force and
Yes.
the Army and so on. So and all that is happening in other spheres also. But it's entrepreneurship, which is to me slightly, in a way, more difficult, but in a way, um, uh, a low-hanging fruit for women if they have a good idea And if they build a team, they can go anywhere. And that's what India is looking for, startups and
Yes.
job creations and so on. Please do keep up the good work of funding and mentoring more than funding women entrepreneurs. And I'm sure that in time to come, we'll see many more women entrepreneurs like yourself and Falguni and all the other names that I took.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Siva.
Thank
Very
you, Professor
inspiring.
Mishra. Thank you.
Thanks. So now we come to our third speaker, Dr. Susheela Venkataraman. By the way, all three have contributed significantly to the IITACB, as Ashok mentioned. I may talk about it at the end. So Susheela has been the coordinator, the backbone behind the webinar program, and today she's on the other end as a speaker. So Susheela, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ashok and Ashok, for this webinar. And yes, thank you for also putting me on this side of the webinar. It's different from what I normally do. Since we are talking of about empowerment, I want to start by a small definition, at least for the purpose of this talk. I want to define what I mean when I say who is empowered. And I put it as the courage to do what is right. It is someone who is whole and someone who's adaptable. That for me defines who is an empowered person, irrespective of gender. It's about empowerment. My career has been fundamentally about management consulting. The whole thought about the consulting approach is completely ingrained into me. And how do I define success as a consultant? I define it as success is if my client says, we did it. It is about them. It is not about me. I only help them solve their issues. I ask questions. I help them by providing options and examples maybe, but eventually it's about them taking charge, and it's about them saying that this is how we are going to solve our problem, or this is how we're going to move forward with whatever it is that we're trying to do. I want to illustrate with a few examples of assignments that I've been associated with. But before that, maybe I should talk about my career a little. I think it started with International Computers, Indian manufacturer ICIM, the erstwhile ICL in India. And I'm so very thankful for that start to my career, because it taught me an absolutely relentless focus on the customer. I did a lot of systems implementation work there. And then at some point of time, someone pointed out that I was starting to be part of the woodwork. So I moved on to digital. And digital, I was privileged to work with folks who looked at technology as a strategic tool. So it was really not technology for technology's sake, but technology as a strategic tool. Having got there and having worked with people who talked about managing change, I then moved on into a hardcore management consulting firm, which is Coopers & Lybrand. This firm prided itself on making strategy happen in client organizations. There was no question of creating shelfware that would just, reports that would just stay on the shelf. We did many large-scale projects. I had wonderful colleagues from diverse backgrounds, and that's where I really learned about managing change. And that really is what transformation is about. Very importantly, we went through two very large organizational transformations ourselves. A merger with another firm, Pricewaterhouse, and then we were acquired by IBM. This whole process was very, very difficult. So, as a consultant, you're sitting outside and you're helping your clients think through things, you're helping them solve problems. But going through a process yourself brings a whole other perspective to what you say to your clients. And these two transformations really taught me a lot about how difficult change can be, how difficult it might be when two different organizations with different kinds of thinking are coming together, and so on. So a lot of difficult questions that I could answer over there, learn to answer them. I went on to discover ICT for development, that is information and communications technology for development. This was later when I was with Cisco, and the question that was before me was, how and where are there opportunities for technology to help India? So then, I looked at areas such as health and agriculture, how, if you're working with rural India, for example, agriculture is so important. How can technology help rural agriculture? How can technology help empower lives in the rural setting? So that's how I ended up actually doing a pretty intense pilot around empowering rural communities with technology. Today, we see how much of power technology has to transform the lives of our millions and billions. We see programs such as Aadhaar and UPI. These are big, big examples that are standing in front of us and which we live through every day. From there, I moved on to join the Asian Development Bank. That is all about poverty alleviation and national development. The scale of transformation is completely different. So for me, the question that was in my mind was, I've worked with organizations in the area of organizational transformation. How different is it? Or how much of that learning can be applied to transforming communities, to transforming nations? And there are fundamental principles that apply across, whether you start with an organization or you or you work with a community, that there are fundamental principles that apply across no matter what. And we'll probably talk a little bit about some of those things as we move forward. But it was interesting also because one of the things that I've learned is that, when we talk about empowerment, it's also about creating your own role. At the Asian Development Bank, my fundamental role was heading up the technology and systems of the bank. But I also chose to evangelize ICT for development because I really believed that it was so important that we start introducing technology into every one of the programs that the bank was funding in different countries. And that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of learning as well. And after all of that, when I came back to India, I decided to stay with the social sector. The reason is, I think once you're in the development space, it kind of bites you and it kind of envelops you. You see the kind of impact that is possible through the work that happens in the social sector. We have so many organizations and individuals who are doing fabulous work for society. And somewhere I felt it would be very nice to help, to support, to mentor, or in whatever way help them with what they were doing. I also now take time to do things that I've always wanted to do, and Ashok Kamath briefly touched on some of my hobbies. And also, it gives me a lot of flexibility to support my family, which is just as important as anything else. So let me then talk about some of the assignments that I've done and how the work that I've done has been about empowering others. So my theory is that everything we do must result in empowering others or changing their lives for the better. So here is an example of one of the companies that we work with, a leading oil major. We were told that they wanted to implement a new system, an ERP, and could we help them design processes? So sure enough, we went in there, we had lots of workshops and all of the things that one normally does. But what we realized is that they had 7 different business units, each of them working pretty independently. The nature of business of each of those businesses was different. They catered to different customer groups, and therefore it was natural for them to think differently. But what we did do was say, oh, you know what, maybe we should look at this much more strategically. Maybe what we should do is to see if there are commonalities that bring the organization together. So we actually ended up moving from a process design assignment to looking at creating a strategic framework for the whole organization. So we actually could help them integrate their 7 different business units into a single entity. And what the end point from all of that was, how do you empower individuals with information to take the right decisions? And how do you empower the organization as a whole to be ready to lead in the face of a very uncertain future? Because that was the time when, those of us who have been long enough around would remember the time when the price of oil was completely managed by the government, to the time when we see so much of flexibility in the pricing. So that was a time that transition was taking place, and it was important for the organization to learn to deal with these kinds of changes. I learned a lot from my clients, and especially because they took charge of saying, this is about change. This is not just about processes, but about change. And we had a wonderful time working with that client. Another client where we were called in to look at the marketing end, the customer service end of the organization. But as we worked through the processes, we realized that that end alone is not good enough for them to satisfy their customer. Remember, I said that whole thinking about the end customer is so ingrained. And so we said, you know what, maybe we should think about integrating some other parts of the organization into this. Maybe we should bring some of the other things that you do, like production, into the marketing processes. And that's how you're going to be able to really achieve customer satisfaction. So we did that, and it was just fabulous because the client appreciated the fact that we were willing to go beyond our stated contractual agreement. The assignment with rural empowerment was an eye-opener. When we went in there and talked about technology being brought into the rural setting, everyone shook their head and said, this in a rural setting, you want to bring computers here? You must be mad. There's no power, and so on and so forth. And more than anything else, the fact that people in the rural setting are supposed to be incapable of absorbing technology. But 2 things stood out for us. One was the fact that everyone had a mobile phone, a large percentage of people had a mobile phone. And the second, sticking out of every house, whether they had money for anything else or not, was a dish through which TV programs were being beamed in. So we caught a random lady who was walking by. We had a partner in a hospital, a doctor. And so we said, hey, you know what, can you just, use, she said she had some problems. So we said, why don't you talk to this doctor at the other end? She's sitting in Bangalore. And we give her a set of headphones, put her in front of a laptop with a camera. And it was very natural for her. It didn't, it didn't sound strange to her that there was somebody at the other end. It taught us that sometimes the assumptions we make can be very, very wrong. And the importance of involving whoever it is that has to undergo change. Eventually, transformation is about people taking charge of whatever change they need to go through. And they will find their ways around it if we enable them sufficiently. So I want to talk about why I do what I do. At some point of time, I told myself, you can either keep complaining or do what you can do about various issues that are facing our country. And there are so many causes, and I believe I work with some of the best not-for-profit organizations in the country today. I remember way back asking my mother, having a discussion with her about what real wealth is. And she said, education and health, that defines what real wealth is. So no surprise, the organizations that I work with are fundamentally in these two areas. The IITACB, where we look at innovation, knowledge, Rotary, where we work a lot with schools and youth in different ways. Seema touched on it. In Unnati, it was about, we can take them through school or formal education, but how do we make sure that they stay off the streets? How do we make sure they are integrated? And the only way to do that is through employment. We're very proud that we are the first not-for-profit in the country to have listed, and we've raised funds on the social stock exchange twice now. Arogya World, where we've touched more than 6 million lives now in about 10, 12 years or so, is all about healthy living and mental health, physical health, all of that. I also mentor a few social startups, which again has been a wonderful learning journey for me personally. So let's talk a bit about success in social transformation. I think the important thing is the readiness to change, whether it is social transformation or organizational transformation, for either of those, all of these would apply. The readiness to change is the most important thing. Whoever has to solve their issues, they need to take charge. They need to own it up, and they need to say, I'm ready to do what it takes to be able to solve my issue, make the change, whatever it is. Have access to the means. Someone needs to provide access to the technology. In today's world, we cannot think of doing anything without technology. So obviously, it's an integral part of all of that. Have some very clear goals. Also, in today's world, there is no organization that is isolated. We are all part of networks of organizations. Every organization works with multiple organizations to do whatever it is that they do. So we have to have clear goals that are shared across these organizations. And of course, the methods and techniques required to make or do whatever it is that has to be done. Policy is another area which is cyclical. And this is in particular to do with social transformation. It is necessarily cyclical. It has to, the implementation of policy has to feed back into the next iteration of policy and so on. Very important to cut through the clutter because there's just so much of it and stay focused on the real issues at hand. And also be very clear about dependencies between different areas. Policy is never in isolation. I was privileged to have been invited to be part of the finance minister's pre-budget consultations last year on employment and vocational training. And there, this whole debate around policy really came to the fore because there were so many different points of view, different stakeholders, their goals and what it is that they want out of it. It was so important to bring all of those different stakeholders together. That was the only way to create an impact. But the biggest mistake is when we leave out those who are actually impacted. We often forget about that. And a lot of armchair criticism, a lot of armchair work happens, or even policy work, recommendations that happen in isolation, but leaving out those that are impacted can be pretty disastrous. So I just want to conclude by saying, I believe that everything we do in our careers, we've heard Abha, we've heard Seema, everything that we do has an impact on someone else. And when we think about what we do as something that empowers whoever it is to improve their lives, to take the right decisions, whatever it is. But when we think about it that way, that is when we will feel really satisfied and happy at the outcomes that we've helped create. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Over to you, Ashok.
Thank you, Susheela. Very inspiring story from you. Just a couple of things I would like to audience to know also. What skill sets do you think we may need to develop for driving organizational changes? You've talked about yourself and some other, but can one train a woman to have these skill sets?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is to be able to ask the right questions. Ask questions, listen, ask questions. So I think fundamentally, if you like, a characteristic that is required is curiosity. And somewhere we need to be able to tickle curiosity in people to be able to do that. The focus on the client and the client's customer and perhaps the client's customer's customer. I think that's important, making that whole link between where is the impact of what the organization does. I think that's very important. Often, we are limited to saying, this is the product, we get it out into the market and our job is done. But what does that product do for their customer and their customer's customer?
Important.
That link is extremely important. In today's world, I think it's already also very important to know what is happening globally. We are no longer long ago, we stopped being an isolated country, an isolated market. So the global market and understanding of what's happening there, practices that are being followed elsewhere. I think all of those are important. And, I did touch upon this briefly while talking about policy, but I think it's equally important in an organizational context is the dependency between different things. Dependency between different organizations and your own organization, dependency between what happens in, say, the finance department or the bank, the banking sector, and what happens in for each of the groups or each of the teams in the organization. I think all those are important.
Yeah. Since you mentioned about public policy earlier also, when you alluded to now, can the public policy play a role in driving organizational changes and the community transformation, especially centered around women scientists, women entrepreneurs, women bankers, all kinds of things?
So, my father used to look after, he was member budget of the Central Board of Excise and Customs for many, many years. And through that process, we actually got to see how policy can really make a lot of difference to industry. And he was looking at it from one point of view, which was the budget, taxation, indirect taxes, really. So that was just one aspect. But we also saw him interact so much with the other ministries and so on. So again, pulling together the different elements that go into, to create a framework around a policy intervention, rather than picking up one thing. You can't just pick up tariff or taxation in isolation and not worry about everything else that goes around it. I think skills is very important. It's a big question that is in everybody's minds, but skills to lead us. You mentioned AI earlier, and AI, we are seeing how it is kind of creeping into everything. Right or wrong is not the question, but it is a reality of where we are headed. And therefore, understanding AI, understanding how it impacts different organizations or people and so on, and also being able to do it in a responsible way, because once you understand what it is about, you also know where it should apply, where you should not use it, how you should not. And that's just an example. We would say that for anything else. So when it comes to, and I think that pretty much also, whether it is women, if you're looking at women in any of these areas, apart from the funding, I think it's very important to look at these other dependent areas. And of
So
course,
I'm currently involved in, just to mention that CII has taken an initiative, people from CII, not CIA directly, to open a university, which is now a reality. It's registered and everything, called Nayanta University in Pune. And the first program we want to stress upon is in public policy. And we would like you to make a difference there so that the women are more empowered through the policy issues and so on.
glad to.
You meant, yeah, I'll get in touch with you. You also mentioned about your father looking at budgets and all that. Now, the headlines today in Times of India says Karnataka government budget seems to have allocated 25% for women empowerment. What does this mean to you, and can you elaborate if you know a little bit about it? I mean,
I
this is
frankly,
fantastic.
yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it sounds.
maybe it should be more, but at least 25%.
That's what I was going to say. 25%. Why? I mean, why is it not 50%?
No, I know.
Or more, but
It's more
no,
than zero, you know.
I know. Sorry, but I have not seen the
Okay.
detail behind it, so I really can't remark on it.
Okay.
And also, what aspects of empowerment are we talking of? You talked about microcredit earlier. So is
Right.
it from an investment perspective, skilling perspective, trying to bridge the gender gap on social attitudes? Where is it? Where does it lie? Or is it health?
Yeah.
For example, I think women tend to ignore their personal health a lot as compared to doing what they have to for the family. Is it around nutrition and health? So we have to see what it really means.
Yeah, with your involvement in Arogya Health, you should be able to make a difference there.
Yeah. So it's very interesting. I think we've been doing some really interesting things with, especially with women on the nutrition side also, because, and I don't know how many people have heard about this run in a red sari run that is coming up it's been happening in many locations across the city in Bangalore. But that is all about saying that women can exercise without necessarily having to worry about the right attire and so on. You can really, but take charge and stay healthy.
Okay, so one last question. If you can mention about the challenges that would be faced by women in bringing about organizational and changes and transformation as we go forward. And if you could give a couple of examples just to elaborate, that would be great.
I'm not sure. I think so long as there is acceptance of women as equals, it really doesn't matter whether it is a man or a woman. So I think fundamentally, that's the thing that we need to tackle. But that will happen over a period of time. We heard both Abha and Seema talking about how there is a difference, and we are seeing more women step up. We are seeing women take up careers that they would otherwise not have dreamt of. We know that women, whether it is in ISRO or NASA, have been very much part of the mathematicians, actually, have been so fundamentally responsible for everything that's happened, the success of a lot of space flights and so on. But yet today, the attitude towards science and maths amongst women, sometimes I think it's not just men against women or whatever, but also women themselves not having the conviction that, they should do what they want to do and what they should do. They really should not worry about, I want to be a scientist. They should not worry about, is this something that is appropriate for a woman? We need to get out of that. And yes, before you ask the question, yes, we will work on that, Ashok.
One second. So I would like to on behalf of the IIT Alumni Center and all those who watched this remarkable journey of three ladies, powerful ladies in three different areas. Research, entrepreneurship, transformation, and so on. Thank you so much. I have learned a lot by listening to you, although I meet you all the time here and there, but listening to you in a webinar was different. Any programs you can do at IITACB, of which you are all part of, to take this journey forward would be great.